I do watch some of the forensic files and some of those shows every now and then, but most of the time it's on late at night and I'm usually in bed. So I used to, before I started working at my current job, I used to stay up late at night and I've watched those in the past, but now I don't as much. So I don't really get as much info. So that's why it's good that I have someone like you because like now I'm like learning more about like what goes on the other side of the phone besides the victim. So
Uh-huh.
it's good to get that perspective for sure.
Absolutely.
So my next question is still about like these kind of hard kind of calls. So like do these hard calls that you get, do they still affect you even after you get off your work shift, or do you just kind of block it off? Like once you get off, it's like, okay, I'm gonna go home, with my family, and it just kind of like goes away, like those kind of hard kind of calls.
Yeah, for sure. So I think in the perspective of the bad calls that we take, it sticks with everyone. You'll have people that say, "Oh, I can leave it all at the door," but I just unfortunately I don't think that's the case for everybody. Uh, you know, if you get a child that has unfortunately passed away, or you get someone who was eating dinner and just passed out and they've died, that takes a toll on you. And you get off, and the first thing you wonder is, or the first thing you say to yourself is, "I'm going home. I'm going to my family's house." But unfortunately, this loved one has passed away, and they don't get to see their family anymore. That's kind of the biggest thing that I find is when I leave, it kind of all hits me at once, because in, like you said, today's world, it's very busy, and we're continuously getting more and more calls, so we don't have time, necessarily to stop and break down to say during every call. So, those emotions build up, and they build up throughout the day. And usually whenever you get off work is just whenever you kind of let it all loose whenever you're by yourself on your way home. And I've found that, just driving home, sometimes I'll pass some of the houses that I've taken calls at, and I'll play that call back in my head. Or I'll pass an ambulance on my way home, and that's the call that I replay. So I definitely think for certain bad calls, that does stick with you for us for a good substantial amount of time. I still have calls today after 4 years that I can still remember, like the really bad ones, but most of them, they seem to kind of subside after some time. But I definitely think that in that moment and in that time, you definitely continue to think about those calls. And that's why we have a lot of support groups, which I think we'll talk about later, that can kind of help you to, deal with your emotions and help you through that crisis that you're feeling.
Yeah, listen, I'm glad you brought that up because yeah, we definitely wanted to bring up about like the support groups and stuff like that because as I could definitely see if I was in like that job position, like I feel like that would definitely like affect me emotionally for sure. And I said it's definitely, kudos to all of y'all out there that, do
Thank
it
you.
and are able to still like compose yourself to take on the next call. Just because I feel like one of those like really hard calls, I feel like that would just do me in. Like it just like it
Mm-hmm.
would be a really hard thing. And I'm sure that there have been moments where somebody within the 911, operating business, has probably just had to, like you said earlier, like some people just may want to just, I'm just going home, like, or like, they may like leave early from work, because it's like really hit them hard because uh, it just was a super tragic thing. Or I mean, of course, all calls are, but there are some that are really bad. Like especially like you said, it involves like a child or or something like that, or or especially if it leads to where the person actually did pass away and they weren't just sent to a hospital and recovered. Like those will definitely be hard to like swallow and take in and just
Mm-hmm.
digest, and especially like you said going past the houses, like I feel like that would like rush into my head as well, just thinking like, wow, like look at what, just what happened here, like, just taking, the call that, that ended somebody's life, or something like
Mm-hmm.
it happened here at this house and I'm driving by. And uh like even yesterday, I know this is random, but like like we stopped outside of a parking lot to like drop off my sister. Like after vacation, we all rode in a 15 passenger van, which was a good time.
I
But
was going to ask
anyway,
about that.
but anyway, like so we were dropping her off, and we were at a Cracker Barrel parking lot, where she was meeting with her husband because her husband was unable to come to vacation. So we were dropping her and my nephews and niece off there, to meet up with him. Anyway, like so we were pulling up to the parking lot, and there was like caution tape like all around a big part of like
Uh-oh.
Cracker Barrel, and I think somebody may be dead in a car. Like I said, it was a. So I was just thinking, like today we actually did go eat a Cracker Barrel. Like yesterday we just dropped them off there just because it was good, like middle ground by the interstate, and
Mhm.
like so they can get back on and go towards their house. And anyway, like so today we were, driving by. We were actually, there at Cracker Barrel eating, and like I said, I drove like right in that spot where the caution tape was. It's not there anymore. But I was just thinking, like, like wow, like I was just here, not 24 hours ago, and listen, somebody was found dead in their car in the very spot that I just like drove by. And listen, I know I've even seen like before, it was a year ago or so. I was driving back, or my family actually, we were driving back home from like a hockey game, which is probably this hockey game, the Birmingham Bulls. But anyway, we were driving and like coming down a downhill, and there was cops around, and there was a big like sheet over a body. And I was just thinking, like, oh, like, this person, like, every time I go past like that area, like, I always think about, like, I saw a dead body there, basically. Well, like,
Mhm.
covered up. I saw their shoes, and it looked like a man's like dress shoes. So I was just thinking, like, man, like just driving by there, like I said, I can just picture seeing that like every time I go by there now. So I can definitely understand, how you can drive by somewhere and the call starts going through your head and all that. So it's definitely a hard thing. And since we kind of brought up about like support groups, I think this would be a probably a good time to talk about it. And I know we'll probably bring it up a little bit later, but unless I know you mentioned about support groups, so like what kind of support groups do y'all have there whenever these kind of hard calls happen?
So we are in the process in the county that I work in of creating a CISM group, which is Critical Incident Stress Management. So it's a week-long class that you go through and you learn how to deal with critical incidents, and you learn how to hold debriefings and learn about people's emotions and listen to them and talk to them and kind of give them the best route on what they should take as far as seeking therapy or employee assistance or just having a friend to talk to, because sometimes we find that people open up more to people that they don't know, instead of friends or family, someone that they may not personally know but is in the same profession with them. So we're currently in the process of building that. We have a few people from EMS and then myself from 911. So we haven't met yet and kind of formed anything, but we're in the process of that. So whenever there is a bad call, we can, go out to the ambulance station or the fire department or the police department, and we can have a roundtable discussion, with everyone that responded or with the 911 dispatchers, just to kind of see what all happened. And I feel like it helps too when the fire side tells EMS what they saw, or the 911 side tells everyone what they heard. I feel like that really helps to bring closure to a lot of people. So that's one program that we're starting to implement. We saw that it is very successful in other counties, and we've started to hold them uh, just kind of like in individual groups, but we would like to get everyone together as a whole to hold those whenever those incidents happen. Um, we also we haven't formed a program yet, CIT, critical incident training. So that basically ties into the same thing. So, learning how to talk to people in crisis and, providing them with help, providing them with assistance. And then one of the biggest unformed groups, I would have to say, is your own coworkers, the people that you work beside for 12 hours a day. Uh, I found that, just after a call, talking to them, talking to one of them, talking to all of them as a whole, what could we have improved on? What could we have done better? What did we do good on? Did this, what we do, save or make the outcome better? What happened? So I feel like SISM is going to be a really good thing for our county. I feel like it's going to bring a lot of people together and bring a lot of closure. CIT, if we ever happen to form that, I haven't heard anything about that. But then just talking to each other, I'm in a room for 12 hours more with them than I am my own family at times. So I know them very well. So I feel like being able to talk to them and spend time with them and kind of get to know them on a personal level definitely helps all of us to be able to talk whenever we're in crisis or we need someone to talk to.
Yeah, that's good that y'all are starting to implement that into your county and to do, to be able to talk to, like you said, the fire department and the police department, because it definitely affects all of y'all in the long run. Like, so those people may overlook that whenever they watch these shows, like I mentioned, like Forensic Files and stuff like that. You think about the victim and their families and their loved ones, and or you may think of the suspect, like and stuff like that, but you hardly ever think about, like, how the 911 operator takes it, and what the fire department sees, and what the police department sees. And so it's definitely good to, like I said, to not overlook that, because we're all human at the end of the day. Like I said, we all still have feelings, and like I said, everybody deals with things differently. Some people may bottle it in, and it definitely doesn't, in the long run, it's definitely not good to do that. So it's definitely just good to, have that support group to talk about, what
Yeah.
happened, and, what can we do to do things differently, whether it, or what could we have done if there was anything that could have been done. So those are definitely big things. And like, I know this is basically on the same kind of subject, but like I know this guy that's a doctor, and like he's talked about like how like he has to see people like pass away, unfortunately. But like he's more the type where he almost just has to set his emotions aside because he knows it's part of his job. But I just know, like, with me, like I know that would definitely be hard. And like I said, I know with him, he may have a hard time. He just maybe hasn't admitted it. But like I said, I guess some people just deal with things differently. Like I said, I was just thinking about, like I said, just him being a doctor, and having to see people take their last breath, or someone's loved one having to watch their loved one take a last breath. And those are definitely just hard things to see, and it's definitely things that I hope to never see. But I just know lots of those will definitely be some hard moments. If so, like I say, it definitely is good. Like even if people out here that are watching this are not, in the fire department, the police department, 911, if if you're in one of those kind of hard situations, even if you had to take a hard call, like I said, just definitely have a good support group that can take care of you. And I know that's kind of like, I'm kind of jumping ahead, because like I know as there, one of my questions was about like giving advice, so I may bring this up later. But but as that's definitely just good just to have a support group, and just because it's okay to not be okay, in those
Absolutely.
situations. It's good to just be able to have people to talk to, like you said, especially since you work with these people half of the day, and like you see more people, and you see them more than you see your own family. So it just definitely makes a lot of sense to get to know them on a personal level, and to understand, like their perspective of what happened with that specific call. So yeah, so that's definitely really good support system. And I'm glad that hopefully I continues to go across all over the nation, for sure.
That's something that we've definitely hoped for, is that we've seen it on the local level, so we hope that it kind of flourishes out into the state level and into the national level, so that we could bring awareness to PTSD within the dispatch center, because it's obviously something that happens. We deal with, like I said, people's the worst days of their lives. So we try and want to make sure that everyone knows that, like you said, it's okay to not be okay. Everyone has those times uh, of feeling down or feeling like they were helpless, but definitely talking to someone and not bottling it up and trying to deal with it yourself is probably the best option.